we have a growing child labor problem in this country. We're talking about regulation here. It's systemic. Major corporations are doing it in the shadows, but reports are beginning to trickle out. This was a really well done report by NBC News. Children have been employed by this company called Packer Sanitation Services Incorporated, PSSI for short. And it is a cleaning company owned by, and also this is the slaughterhouse one as well, right? Here, involved in the cleanup for slaughterhouses.
Yes, yeah, PSSI is a sanitation company for like meat packing plants and other industries.
Quite a dangerous workplace.
Yeah.
And it's also owned by Blackstone, one of the biggest private equity firms in the country. No, Blackstone.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And don't you worry. But it's been passed around PSSI from different private equity firms over the past few years. And what essentially private equity does there is they gut these kinds of companies, and Blackstone in particular has been operating with this company using a profit model and transactions called dividend recapitalizations, where they essentially indebt the company and then extract money and collect dividends for themselves.
We've got to tighten our belts.
It's a very aggressive approach for people at the top, and private equity does this kind of stuff all the time. They then have to pay, cut labor costs, cut safety costs in this kind of instance, because they've indebted the company, and they cut costs on labor because they need to kind of build back up the profitability of the company after they've enriched themselves. And now they're cutting corners on labor and on regulations in the form of child safety, child labor in these instances. They're trying to get away with it, but luckily there have been some whistleblowers. Here's the report from NBC News.
Tonight, alarming accusations about what happened inside this Nebraska meatpacking plant. Migrant children like this boy, who federal investigators say was put to work in a job that can be incredibly dangerous. Could anybody mistake these children for adults?
I don't think there's any mistaking these children for adults.
Investigators say the child workers arrived for their shift at night, many of them from Central America. They were employed by cleaning company Packer Sanitation Services, Inc. to sanitize equipment inside the plant. PSSI has 17,000 workers. Of those, investigators say the company employed more than 100 children, aged 13 to 17, in 13 plants across 8 states. Last October, labor investigators say they found nearly 24 children, some as young as 13, working here inside this massive slaughterhouse, cleaning up blood and animal parts in the overnight shift. Nebraska immigrant advocate Audrey Lutz has been helping some of the child workers from Guatemala, who she says are scared to talk to us.
I think these youth are afraid because they don't know the systems in this country that were meant to protect them, because those systems failed.
We spoke to a former PSSI manager who asked that we conceal their identity. Did you ever see kids, people who looked like kids, working inside these plants?
Yeah.
How young do you think they were?
Probably as young as 12.
How did that strike you when you saw someone that young working a job like this?
It kind of makes you sick. When you walk through the plant, you can't walk through it without getting animal parts on you or blood all over you.
The company disciplined an employee in 2021, according to an internal PSSI report reviewed by NBC News. The employee, who handled hiring for multiple plants, was found to have hired the same known minor 2 separate times in the span of 6 months under 2 different names. The punishment, according to the document, a demotion and a hiring policy review. Were managers ever worried that they'd be disciplined for hiring children?
No.
The former manager says the more common outcome was to hold the frontline worker accountable.
You would just terminate the child, terminate the undocumented worker.
In December, the company signed a consent decree saying they would abide by child labor laws. PSSI telling NBC News our company has a strong corporate commitment to our zero tolerance policy against employing anyone under the age of 18 and fully shares the Labor Department's objective of ensuring full compliance at all locations, and says they are taking steps to prevent individuals at the local level from circumventing our wide-ranging procedures. Shannon Roboyedo was the lead investigator for the Labor Department.
How is this investigation different from what you've seen before?
I've never seen child labor violations to this extent. Just the sheer number of kids that were working. I've never had an employer or their representative impede my investigation like this, just so brazenly.
PSSI says it was fully cooperative in the Labor Department's investigation.
Sure. Well, they got fined $1.5 million.
Sorry, but that's not I just did the math on that. For 102 kids, that is under $15,000 per kid. So if this was so sort of outrageous and haven't seen anything like this before, why are people going to jail? Like, there should be massive jail time for all these people. And more broadly, anytime that somebody is exploited for labor because they are undocumented in this country, that should be immediate jail time for the capitalists that is exploiting their labor, and immediate citizenship for them and their family.
And when well, good thing that the Biden administration, after the expiration in Title 42, has decided that they're going to implement like a more permanent policy that says if you enter the country illegally, you're ineligible for asylum. Indistinguishable, by the way, from the way that the Trump administration has approached migrants crossing the border. And Joe, they're still going to call you an open border president. So good luck with that. I hope there's some constitutional challenges.
Again, the tough on the border stuff from the right is that's for these same bosses.
Yes,
because that they know that, oh, you want to start talking about how we're hiring 12-year-olds to clean up pig guts in machines that kill pigs. Yeah, we're going to get this police force that Trump made for us. And well, I mean, since the Bush administration, this Border Patrol, we're going to get these guys in here and we'll see how you like them.
It's a form of labor discipline.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they are able to create such an insecure and precarious situation for migrants in this country that they are in constant fear of deportation and are constantly taking as low of wages as possible, so much so that they have to put kids in as young as 12 years old, their children, to just survive in the United States. This is systemic. I mean, apparently PSSI, they've been caught doing this for more than 100 children around 13 meatpacking plants across the country. Guarantee you what has been discovered is just the tip of the iceberg. And a lot of these, massive cleaning conglomerates, companies acquired by private equity that are trying to squeeze every ounce of profit out of these kinds of companies. This is what's happening there. And they would rather have plausible deniability, private equity companies like Blackstone, or that's what they rely on, frankly, because they have an understanding that these kinds of practices are happening. That's why they say at the local level.
Yeah.
They're trying to divert attention from their financial model being an incentive for this exact kind of process. Not even an incentive. It's a directive almost. They just don't want to have they have their hands be dirty.
They're just trying to suck as much profit as possible out of like useful industries, and the only thing that can challenge that is if there's a PR problem, like for instance we're hiring kids and they're getting hurt in
and maybe they end up selling PSSI to another private equity firm, but the model is still going to be the same.
Yeah. I mean, it was I can't remember the car factory was it Alabama, was it Toyota plant, or maybe we should get that, but there's some car factory in the South that was doing the exact same thing. This is not just going to be this nasty PSSI. And if it was Hyundai, yeah, and like this is just something that I think is underreported more than maybe worsening.
But I guess Republicans will have to see if these kids are looking to seek gender transitioning care.
You're right.
To make sure that they're all right.
Yeah.
And to do some oversight.
Yeah, they just care about the children. Should say the PSSI, not just with child labor, has been cited by OSHA many, many times training failure for workers handling liquid nitrogen at poultry processing. Also, there have been multiple workers who have died at that workplace, PSSI, due to nitrogen leaks, and hospitalizations have come as well.
Yeah, I mean, we saw during the pandemic that
could be those children.
Governors were thinking about bringing in the National Guard to run these things because of sickness, stuff like that. That should be in the cards for this sort of thing. Like not only should these executives be jailed, the company should just be taken over by the government in a lot of these situations. This is 102 kids. That's the ones you know about.
The ones we know, yeah.
And I mean, and you get paid about $14,000. Like you're probably saving. That's probably a good deal.
Yeah, especially for like private
undocumented
equity, which is
kids too,
right,
yeah.
Exactly. And so, good job to NBC's Julia Ainsley on that report. Wanted to just give her credit there.